Now, let's take a closer look at another story. Now, we talk about cybersecurity a lot, and yeah, we're going to talk about it again this week because there's more news, and frankly, because it's something that affects all of us. It's dominating the headlines with persistent threats, with sophisticated attacks, but also with some attacks that are not so sophisticated. So we recently talked about the stolen Microsoft keys. We've also talked about the Move It file transfer hack. And these show that these security breaches can be both severe and complex. But sometimes minor errors can also lead to significant consequences, as demonstrated by the inadvertent sending of sensitive military emails to the wrong destination due to a typo. Also, this week, we learned of the passing of a hacking legend, Mr. Kevin Mitnick. And this has sort of captured the attention of the cybersecurity industry and shows his long-term impact on the industry and the field. So I guess let's start with a closer look at some of these stories. Brian?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in this inadvertent email leak of military emails that really kind of come down to simple typo. Like the simplest thing can still screw up security for us. So the story there is that we're used to in the United States having all of our military under the .mil subdomain or top level domain. Sorry, um, which is oddly similar to Molly's top level domain of .ml. So simply dropping off that I, you're sending, instead of sending what may be some sensitive data, maybe being sent to a whole other country, one that happens to be aligned with Russia and not necessarily U.S. friendly, instead of going to another military email address. And the guy that is in charge of running the .ml top level domain has actually raised his flag to the military several times based on the reporting I've seen. So, you got to be careful about those types of things. You got to build systems that will catch simple mistakes like that. It sometimes as simple as you pick up all of the misspellings of whatever company name you have, so that no one else can squat on those or can create security traps around that.
Isn't it funny that the smallest errors can create big consequences? This is not the first time that we've seen things like typos leading to security breaches. Though I would mention that there's some funny interactions when it comes to emails and email addresses. I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but sometimes nowadays mail clients will cache or remember addresses. They will substitute addresses. They're being helpful. And I think increasingly with machine learning being implemented everywhere, we're going to see more and more of this where your client may decide, oh yeah, you meant Bryant Newsome, or not Bryant Knutson, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that actually opens up a whole new avenue of security vulnerabilities because somebody could, for example, send an email to somebody in the military from, I don't know, army.ml. I'm making that one up instead of army.mil. And your client may decide, oh, well, that must be the correct address and automatically fill that in. Just this week, I got some fairly sensitive tax return information sent to somebody with a very similar name of mine on Gmail. I get that stuff all the time. And I'm sure you do too. It's a
Yeah.
funny situation, but it really reflects a potential security vulnerability, but also the kind of social engineering that has been used to lead to security breaches over the years, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. Being able to just make a simple mistake. We've seen this with some of the large learning models too. Of if you inject enough of bad data, it suddenly becomes the reality that large learning model lives on, and makes it easy to be able to inject bad code into these automatic programming situations. But to me, one of the biggest things with the story too is don't send sensitive information via email. Like even if you're on the same domain, email is not shouldn't be considered a secure mechanism for anything sensitive. So I'm always pretty careful, and it can be tough with family members sometimes. Like, oh, well, just send that social security number to me via email. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't like that idea. That seems like a bad idea. How about we both jump on Signal or one of the secure messaging situations? So again, sometimes the simple things are the things that can protect you the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it does remind me of the Move It attack, which we've been talking about here, where essentially people are trying to use secure systems. And yet, what if the secure system is breached? Or what if we're centralizing things? Or what if we're not using it correctly? Again, these are one of the things that affects me all the time. Like you mentioned, as a business owner, I have to deal with tax forms, validation, credit card processing, all those things. And I really try to be secure and I try to use these secure systems. But I have to say, these secure systems are not great. I've used quite a few of them. And not to, well, I've used Move It and I like Move It. I felt like it was a pretty good system. Unfortunately, it was breached. And then yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, and again, this harkens back to SolarWinds, where people were trusting SolarWinds to a level that they may not trust most of their own admins, the level of access it had, and something slipped into that. So I harp on it a lot because I think it's an area that most people don't think about enough, but I've seen enough that scares me. Is the whole supply chain aspect of things can be really really scary, and you see the government, the U.S. government particularly, starting to put some stuff out there to try and put some control around it. But yeah, I mean, don't get hung up on complex situations. Sometimes there's, I hate to say it, but sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Like you've got to trust some tools to some level. Do your due diligence, make sure you truly do trust them, and then protect yourself should something bad happen there.
Yeah, and I want to finish up today's rundown with a reminiscence of somebody who passed away this week. So we learned that Kevin Mitnick, famous hacker, I think that he would be happy to be called that, died this week of pancreatic cancer. Kevin was somebody who banged the drum on security his entire life. I encountered Kevin way back when I was still in college. Look at this hair. When I was in college, I encountered him on the Usenet, and this is someone who taught us all quite a lot about penetration testing, finding vulnerabilities, um, exploiting vulnerabilities. Let me say that his life was a lesson to me and what not to do. And also what to do, because the guy talked a lot about social engineering and inadvertent security issues, just like the things we've been talking about. I'm sure that if Kevin was here, he would be talking about the .ml, .mil fiasco and bringing up a lot of the same issues. Certainly he will be missed. He was an important figure in the world of security, and we're sad to hear of this news.
Yeah, definitely. I was able to hear him speak at a VMUG UserCon conference back in 2014 in Kansas City, and it was fascinating hearing his story and the lessons he learned. And it's a bit of a redemption story where he did go to prison and spend time there because of his illicit activities, and he came out of there a reformed person and used those experiences, used that knowledge to try to better it for other companies. He truly switched sides in that regard, and was really cool to hear his story. He was happy to get out and tell the story and be able to help others learn from what he learned in his story. So yeah, we'll definitely be missed having him in the industry.
Yep, our condolences to his family and friends.